It wasn't the bacon, it was the company they came for. I was struck by this phrase when watching Alan Bennett's Talking Heads over the last couple of weeks, as the character describes the unknown life of her partner, who had covertly joined the queues at the motorbikers' roadside cafe. It immediately made me think of the experience in our own marketplace, a place through its diligence and its grit, in adversity kept going and indeed put bread and fish on our city's tables during lockdown. I have had the privilege as artist and minister to observe the great numbers of early morning regulars visit the cafe there. Whilst I can testify, as indeed does the volume of artwork on my stall fuelled by the tasty mid-morning snack, the bacon is very good. But it's not just the bacon that they are coming for. This is a place of welcome. It's a place where some come daily and others weekly for conversation as much as for the cuppa. As we emerged from a national lockdown, it was touching to observe the relief and pleasure evident on customers' faces, particularly those who had been isolated and living alone, as they discovered that the cafe was once again open. A church, perhaps, but not as we know it. But as for those first followers, well, they were hungry, far from home, and I'm sure stomachs must have been rumbling and mothers concerned as children grew restless and perhaps even scared as the daylight faded. The disciples were ready to send them away, but Jesus' instruction is to feed them there and now. Not to send them to the nearby town to be fed by others. It is a rarity to find an account of Jesus' ministry in all four Gospels, which suggests the importance of it. As N.T. Wright reminds us, we must always consider the context in which Jesus is speaking. Jesus is in grief. His cousin John, the Baptist, has been brutally dispatched by a tyrannical and tempestuous leader who first isolated him and later had him decapitated at the whim of a dancing girl, all because he dared to hold to the truth. And yet, despite this horrific crime and coming to terms with the violent demise of his cousin, which leads him to retreat from the world to a place of prayer and perhaps to grieve, he inevitably finds that he is followed. But Jesus doesn't send them away or focus on his own grief, but instead responds in and with love. This is true ministry, a shepherd in action, feeding the flock. Both the physical and the spiritual needs are met. As Luke's account puts it, he welcomed them and spoke to them about the kingdom and healed those who were in need of healing. It is perhaps too easy, though understandable at times, to focus solely on the spiritual sustenance that we offer. But if this pandemic has shown us anything, it is surely the potency and efficacy of community meeting immediate need, particularly when the backdrop of government is chaotic. Community, faith, and relationship is everything. The disciples were ready to send the people away, despairing that they could not possibly feed all these people. It was getting dark. They were far from home, and the doubters may well have started to worry how the crowd may turn. But Jesus' approach was different, both immediate and profound. Let's share what we have. The offerings of a few fish and loaves of bread abounded in the generosity with baskets to spare. But they did deal with the physical need, just as the churches and other faith communities and neighbourhoods have picked up the phone, sent a card, delivered the groceries, or even exchanged a greeting on the street. Each one a piece of bread or a morsel of fish shared. But each act comes from an invitation from a God of love to act for all that builds up the common good. Perhaps the greatest miracle is simply an act of the love of sharing. Where in the coming week will we offer up in thanks for what we have to share with others? What will we do to ensure that the baskets are brimming over to live the Eucharistic life?